Hey, it's Whitney from EcoVeganGal.com, and welcome back to the weekly Q&A that happens every Saturday here on Google+. I do a quick introduction for any of you that might be new, and for those of you who have been listening in week after week, thank you so much for being here. So just for those of you who are brand new to these Q&As, let me explain how they work. First of all, if you're watching live or the recording, this really cool thing that I like to say at the beginning of all these videos is that you can actually skip forward to specific sections. Now, this doesn't work when you're watching live, but if for some reason you can only watch for a short amount of time, only a few minutes here and there, you don't have time to be here for the entire Q&A, you can come back later when the recording is up on YouTube and look in the description field, and there are actually time codes that allow you to skip forward to specific questions. And people are always asking, these videos are so long, I want to be able to go to just something specific. Just click right in the description field and every question is listed out with the time code. You click on that and you jump forward. For the live, it's really amazing to watch live because you can interact with me. And the main purpose of the Q&A is for me to answer your questions. So what I do each week is I put together a list, usually 3 to 5 questions. Sometimes I have a guest. Today I am on my own. And I start off with answering those prepared questions, and then I open it up to live questions. And the way that you can ask live questions is through Google+. So you have to just follow the very specific instructions through Google+. You can find the link to this event on Facebook or on Twitter. You might be watching on YouTube, but if you want to interact, either comment or ask questions during the live recording, you have to go to that event link. You can also find this at google.com/+EcoVeganGal, and you click on the event, and then you open up the video, and on the right-hand side, there's something called a Q&A app that allows you to type in questions as well as comments. So that is the only way that I can see your live questions during the recording. Once this has been recorded, you can certainly interact on YouTube, but please don't post anything on YouTube if you want me to see it during the live recording. And speaking of YouTube, it's wonderful for joining the conversation, for sharing your opinion and your answers to other people. But in terms of questions, if you want your question answered in a future Q&A, you click in the YouTube description fields and there's a little bit.ly link. I believe it's weekly QA or EVG weekly QA, so I always forget what it is. And you can click on that and submit your questions for the future. If you put them in the YouTube description field, I might miss them, so the form is there to make sure that I don't miss out on anything. So that is basically it. The last option for you that sometimes I forget to mention is that you can submit your question as memo through a free service called SpeakPipe. That's also linked in the description field, and I am going to be playing one today, and you'll hear how nice it is to hear somebody's voice. So it brings a whole new element to this, and perhaps in the future I can integrate video when I do some sort of editing with these videos, but for now I just play those recorded audios, and it's really neat. And just let me know in the beginning of that, though, if for some reason you're uncomfortable with me playing it, if you want it to be private or public. And I will always, what's the word I'm looking for? Respect your privacy. And same goes with any questions, actually. When you fill out the form, you can actually note whether or not you want me to say your name out loud or not. I like to say names to personalize the questions, but if for some reason you want it to be anonymous, I completely understand. Okay, well, with no further ado, let's begin. I have a couple things that I would like to tell you about today. Sometimes I have special announcements at the beginning of the Q&As and products that I want to talk about, and I have 2 great things to share with you today. First of all, I wanted to let those of you who are in the California state or anywhere near California, you come here to visit, I want you to know about a really neat event happening called Healthy Taste of LA. Here's the flyer. And it's really neat because it's a gathering of some really amazing vegans. And their motto is get healthier, live longer, go plant-based. It is a 2-day event Saturday and Sunday night, November 1st and 2nd, so coming up soon. The Saturday night event is in Redondo Beach, and the Sunday event is in Torrance. Saturday night, they are having a dinner with Dr. John McDougall, who is really phenomenal. And there's going to be gourmet food prepared by celebrity chefs and a meet and greet with Dr. McDougall, which is really cool. If you don't know who he is yet, you should definitely check him out. He's written lots of books. He also has a lot of great videos on YouTube. His last name is spelled McDougall. Definitely look him up because he is such a phenomenal resource. He has a great book that I have right now called The Starch Solution. I believe that's the last book he's written. And that book is really fascinating. Then on Sunday, they're having a special event from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. that is having a whole lunch. And then they're going to do this all-day speaking event with scientific information from the finest medical doctors and health experts. So you've got John McDougall again, Pam Popper, who's amazing, and she was in Forks Over Knives, so is John McDougall, and Howard Lyman, who's a really fascinating guy. Plus the chefs are going to be Chef AJ, who wrote this great book called Unprocessed, Eric Lesacheur, who owns a amazing vegan cafe in LA called Seed. It's one of my all-time favorites, and a few others. So definitely check that out. You can get more information at healthytasteonline.com. And if I was in town, I would be going to this because it looks just so wonderful. And again, here's the flyer, and pass on the information. If you're not in LA, definitely keep spreading the word. They would love to see as many of your faces as possible. Secondly, I would like to share with you some amazing vegan products that I just tried. And you're probably going to start hearing about this a lot if you haven't already online. In fact, I literally just went on Facebook to post that the Q&A was starting, and I saw the very first post I came across was about this very product. I thought that was funny. And that is Miyoko's Creamery. This is a new line of vegan cheeses, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Miyoko has been known in the vegan world as an incredible chef. She's written some books, she does speaking events, and she's been involved with various video projects. Just an all-around amazing person in the vegan world. And she's written a book about creating vegan cheeses and done some videos on this, and decided that it might serve people even better to actually sell the cheeses, right? I have heard about her book and known about her work, and I've seen her videos, and I've never made her cheeses before. For me, I like to do a lot of things myself, but something like cheeses sometimes feels a little daunting, and this just kind of takes away that aspect of it because you can just go out and get it. These cheeses are unbelievably good. I think the first time I had her cheese, let me think about this for a second. I can't remember. I definitely had it almost a year ago in San Francisco, but then she brought them to the Natural Products Expo to a private party, and she put them out at this party, and everybody was just going nuts over them, pun intended, because they're made from nuts. But let me tell you that getting them in the mail and having to try them again on my own little by little and experiment with putting them on different things is just a whole new experience, and I'm just so thrilled and grateful that this exists. There are so many vegan cheeses out on the market. One of my Q&As actually centered around this, and I wrote a whole post. I think there are at least 30 different brands out there, but this cheese stands out, and I've been saying for a while that I think Miyoko has some of the best cheese ever. So she has a few different products here. This one, I haven't actually tried this one yet. There's a couple. She sent me 8. I think there are 8 flavors in all, or maybe 9, but I received 8, and that's a lot of cheese. So I haven't tried this one yet, but it's really cool because it's wrapped in a fig leaf. It looks absolutely beautiful. The one that I've been really enjoying is the smoked farmhouse. So let me show you what it looks like. It comes wrapped in the nice paper. May I mention there's no plastic here unless you count the labels, which is very cool. So a little box, and inside maybe this is coated with plastic, but my point is it's not like wrapped in cellophane or anything. And so this is what it looks like. It's a huge piece of cheese, really dense, really rich, and the flavors are unbelievable. So this one has that great smoky flavor. It reminds me of, what's that smoked cheese? Gouda, is it? I think so. It's been so long. There aren't that many smoked vegan cheeses on the market, but wow, is this unbelievable. I love this because it's not like a lot of cheeses which are either in shred form or just super creamy. This like has more of the traditional cheese consistency and texture. It doesn't look so great on camera there, but trust me, it looks very appetizing in person. So this is really wonderful for slicing on top of crackers. And I think that that's what's really nice about Miyoko's, is that unlike kind of the more popular brands that have been out for a long time, this isn't meant to be put on a pizza or a quesadilla or grilled cheese. This is meant to kind of enjoy as you would when you're having cheese as a snack, right? My parents are a really great example of this. They almost always have a little block of cheese in the fridge, or cheese, and they have it on their crackers as little snacks in between meals. And I've been trying for so long to get them to stop that, but they just haven't found a non-dairy cheese that they like, and I cannot wait for them to try this. So I really want to emphasize that this is just so wonderful for non-vegans too. Then there's a sun-dried tomato garlic, and this one is also very similar in consistency to the smoked farmhouse. A rustic alpine, again, some of these are like that consistency and a few of them are not. I have not tried the herbes de Provence yet, so I don't know if that one is the more creamy, but it's coated in lavender and herbs for a touch of sweetness. But apparently this one is another one of the hard. I'm going to save the best for last. Then there's the sharp farmhouse. Again, same consistency. The double cream chive. And this one, there's two more left. They actually come in wrapped in plastic, and they're a little bit creamier. So these are more like a spreadable kind. And I do want to mention that, of course, these could be used in whatever dishes you want. You can make a sandwich with them, whatever you want to do with them. It's not that you can't. You could probably put this on a pizza. And Miyoko's actually melted her cheeses into macaroni cheeses, and they're unbelievably good. But my point is, I think that they're extra exciting because that's not the first and only purpose of it, unlike something like Daiya, which is a little bit more meant for being melted, right? The last one, and this is my hands down favorite. I think everybody is going crazy over this that's tried it, is the winter truffle. It's so, so amazing. I have eaten half of it already, and I just got these yesterday. When I got these in the mail, I immediately opened them up and started trying every single one, except I have two left that I haven't tried yet. I was just so ecstatic, and the winter truffle I can't get enough of. I would have been grateful if I had just received 8 of those. So it looks a lot like this. It's the creamier, softer, and the flavor is unbelievable. Truffle is one of my favorite things of all times. I love truffle salts, and every once in a while I'll have truffle oil, and it just brings dishes to life. It's amazing on pastas and rice dishes, and you can just get so creative. And in a cheese, it's just spectacular. This would be a mind-blowing macaroni and cheese. So you're probably wondering, where can you get these? I don't know quite yet, so I'm going to go on the website because I was sent these. So you can apparently buy these on the website. If you want all of the flavors I was just talking about, it is, how many do you get here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so you get 8. It's $89 if you want all of those, okay? And they're doing pre-orders right now. So that's not so bad. That's just over $10 for each of them. And I'm writing a whole book about about eating vegan on a budget, and I understand that $89 sounds crazy. Well, this would only make sense if you want cheese that's going to last you months and months, right? That's the cool thing. These will last until, depends on the flavor actually, but some of them will last until January. So you could stock up and have a little as a snack here and there. They'd be amazing for the holidays, right? But you can also, I guess she puts them all in different collections. This is the first time I've looked at the website. You could get 3 flavors for $36. So yeah, it's about $13 per cheese. And again, this is a very specialty item. This is for a special treat, and a little bit goes a long way. Like this farmhouse, I am so satisfied I've only had the sliver of it. This is probably going to last, well, you're talking to someone who just loves to eat here, but I would say there's at least 20 servings in there because you just have them on little crackers, and little taste, and the flavor stays in your mouth for a while. So that would be $13 really, really well spent there. So maybe like 25 to 50 cents per serving, depending on how much you're having it and how much you're using it. So if you go to miyokoskitchen.com, I'll link to it down below. You can check out more. She will be selling in stores soon, but it doesn't look like she has that quite set up yet. I feel like she might be in some New York City locations. But I really encourage you, if you're looking for some wow factor and you want just like a mind-blowing experience, or it's coming up on the holiday season, so if you're looking for some good gift ideas for other people, check these out. I can't say enough about them, and you will, now that you know about them, if this is your first time hearing about it, you'll probably see it all over the internet, because I think everybody got their delivery yesterday or the day before. So we're all of us bloggers and content creators are going to be just shouting the praises from the rooftop. Okay, well, let's jump into the questions today. I know sometimes I can be a little long-winded with these product mentions, but I really feel like it's important to go into depth about it, right? I mean, you could read about something, you can see photos, but my aim with all my video content and the Q&As is to make it more like a friendly hangout. This is how I would talk to a friend, and I want you to know my full thoughts about things. Okay, so I'm going to do things a little bit differently today. I admit that I'm not on top of my organization quite as much as usual. I've been just taking on a few too many projects and feeling a little all over the place. So I don't have all the questions gathered together. It's going to take me a minute in between, but I will be answering questions kind of so you can start asking questions right now, and maybe I'll just answer entirely live questions if that's what you want to do today. But I also have some responses or some questions being sent in that I'm going to go through, and I have the speak pipe message that I want to play for you. But I do see 2 questions over here coming in live already. So Walla Nay asked, what type of cheese is it? You know, I completely skipped over what's in these cheeses. I was so excited. Okay, so these cheeses, again, Miyoko's Creamery is the name, and they're organic, made with cashews. So they're nut-based cheese. Some of them have soy in them. This one, the farmhouse, is actually soy-free. It's made with chickpea miso and nutritional yeast and a few other things. It's very, very basic, and everything is organic. So again, we talk about the price of $13 or so for these, a little less depending on how you buy them and where you buy them. Organic, vegan, high quality, unprocessed ingredients, incredible flavor, and very dense. So again, you're paying for quality in that whole experience with it. And I apologize for not mentioning the ingredients earlier, but they all are based in cashew, which is wonderful for someone like me who's sensitive to almonds. And it seems like some of the really delicious vegan cheeses out there are made with almonds, which is frustrating. Okay, now Saika asked, would you consider Daiya or Miyoko better? You know, that's a hard question because it always depends on what you're using it for. As I mentioned, I think Miyoko, if you're going to spend $13 on a cheese, enjoy it, savor it, have it in small pieces and bites. If you were to take an entire block here and melt to a pizza, you'd have a really expensive pizza, right? And it would probably taste incredible. or melted into a macaroni and cheese. Whereas Daiya you can get for $4 or $5, maybe even less if it's on sale. And that is really designed for the pizza and the quesadillas and all that, depending on what type of Daiya you get. They also have the slices and the blocks of cheese. I have to say, from a taste perspective, I think Daiya is really nice in certain usages, but I'm personally not a massive fan of Daiya just to have on crackers. Again, that's why Miyoko would be a better thing. Plus, Daiya has a lot of ingredients in it. It's got oil in it. These are, I think, entirely oil-free, which is really amazing, okay? And the ingredients are unprocessed. It's just a different thing with Daiya. So it depends on what your preferences are, what price point you're going for, how you're going to use it. And I think it's just wonderful to have more options of cheeses out there. Now, Diane asked, can you grate the cheese for various recipes? I love all these cheese questions. Absolutely. This would, I mean, again, you can use Miyoko's Kitchen however you want. I have yet to really experiment with it, but I have had Miyoko's prepared food before, and she's put it in things like macaroni and cheese, and it's mind-blowing. By the way, I completely failed to mention that Miyoko is going to be on the cruise along with me at the end of the month. We're going to the Caribbean, so I get to know Miyoko better, and she's going to do a whole food demo. I cannot wait to see what she's going to do. I'm so excited. So I'll report back to you. Maybe I'll invite her onto the Q&A if it's possible to do from the cruise. But anyways, yes, you could certainly grate this. It's a little on the soft side, but I'm sure that it's possible. If not, you could just cut it up really finely. I'm gonna have another taste. It's so good. Okay, moving on here. Like I said, if you want to start asking your questions at any point, I'll keep an eye on the Q&A app on the side. And for any of you who just joined, if you want to ask your live questions, you have to do them on Google+. So google.com/+eco-vegan-gal. Click on the event and then open up the video on the right-hand side. Or you can use a mobile app for this, computer or mobile device. Just download the Google+ or the Google Hangouts app for that. If you ask on YouTube, I won't be able to see your question. If you ask in the event, they make it so complicated, Google. Why do you do this? But it has to be in the Q&A app. Okay, so let's get into some questions. I want to start with the speak pipe because it's all queued up. And this one comes from Emma.
Is for vegans who've been around for a little while. I'm not what I would consider a brand new vegan, and I'm having trouble keeping my weight at a slim level. I don't want to promote being overly skinny, but I think I've gotten back into too many comfort foods, and I just wanted to know if you had any tips on how to stay motivated to eat super healthy. Your body remains at its happiest, its ideal weight, its most comfortable weight, I guess I would say. It's not about your shape or how thin you are. I don't think it's about how you feel in your skin. So if you have any tips, that would be great. And I look so forward to hearing your next live Q&A. Thanks.
Emma, I hope you're watching today, and if you're not, I hope you're watching the recording. Thank you so much for sending it in, and to everyone else. Isn't it cool to hear people's voices? This is why I love getting messages on SpeakPipe, and you literally just use your computer. You could probably use your mobile device too. I don't think I've ever done it that way, but to record a message, and it sends it to me free, like you're sending me a little phone voicemail. Okay, so Emma wants to know about avoiding or staying on track with eating healthy. And, you know, I've talked about this so much in so many videos, and Emma, I think she sent this in before I did the Q&A with Talia Furman, which was so fantastic and really went into depth about this. So I would definitely recommend turning to that, because Talia wrote a book called Love Your Body, which goes really into depth about loving our body and getting our body into the best state possible. But in terms of my personal advice and experience, I think it's really important when it comes to our bodies is to kind of create a habit around it. That's really what has helped me the most. I have always struggled with my body, and this is a huge part of why I do what I do and my whole story behind Eco Vegan Gal. when I was younger, I felt so out of control, and I tried every diet and every exercise and whatever it was. And I have to admit that it's still a struggle for me, even though I've come a really long way. And I saw a whole, I have dogs coming to visit, a therapist about my, Evie. I went to see a whole therapist about this, and that really helped me a lot. But I was also on the verge of developing a really full-on eating disorder, and that was life-changing for me to see a therapist, because I can't remember exactly what the therapist said. It was a psychiatrist that I was visiting from the recommendation of a doctor, and I think that she just said something simple like, you know, why are you doing this? Why are you looking at your body this way to snap out of it? And those weren't her exact words. I'd really have to think back into what she said. But I remember it was this is a simple conversation, and I was still in college. I went to the cafeteria after that, and whatever she said just really resonated with me, and I just made that decision that day to treat my body better. And I decided to go vegan. But those words really stuck with me of really stepping back and wondering why I was being so critical with myself and so hard on myself. And I think that that is something I have to say to myself on a daily basis, and we all should kind of remind us. We have these mental images in our head of what we're supposed to look like, or what we should look like, or what other people want us to look like. And it's incredibly damaging, because each of us are so unique, and we have so many different factors at play in terms of how our bodies react to food and our environment, and so many different things that happen in our lives. So I think that to stay on track is just kind of that mental habit of, you know, A, not being too concerned and focused on your weight all the time, and B, that it also takes a mental habit to eat well and to exercise. And I found that the more I stay consistent with something, the easier it is. So if I'm trying to avoid sugar, for example, I just have to stay consistent with it. If I let myself kind of quote unquote fall off the bandwagon, it's really hard to get back on the bandwagon. But I also find great ways to incorporate things into my lifestyle, treats, right? So a treat for me is easier to stay on track with if it is a healthy treat. So we're so fortunate right now that we have healthy options for everything. I mean, look at the cheese, right? A lot of people would consider cheese a treat. Now, when you eat unprocessed cheeses that are just made from nuts and a few other ingredients, it's a lot easier for your body to digest. It's a lot easier for your body to take in the nutrients and to enjoy. And if you have a small amount, again, another reason why something like Miyoko's Kitchen is so wonderful, because it's got so much flavor in it, right? So I can have a small amount of that and feel so satisfied. Unfortunately, a lot of the food out there isn't meant to satisfy us with a few bites. It's kind of been designed for us to eat and eat and eat, like potato chips or Pringles, right? Isn't Pringles model, you can't have just one? Isn't that their tagline? I mean, they're convincing us that we need to eat this entire container of potato chips that are you know, genetically modified and full of oil and salt and all these things. No wonder we're struggling with our weights, is we're just eating so many processed foods. The great thing about eating unprocessed foods and whole foods is that a little bit goes a long way. They're full of fiber, they're full of water, and so we become satisfied so much easier. So I would say look for those healthy treats, those healthy options that will satisfy you, and turning to those, keeping those around, so that when you do want a treat, whether it's savory or sweet, you have that as a quick option to go to, and you don't feel quite as, you know, tempted by all the impulse selling. This is a lot that I talk about in my ebook. And while the ebook is really about budgeting, it really applies to all aspects of healthy eating and all of that. So I could go on, and that's exactly why I did that whole Q&A with Talia there. But I would say the best advice is to just stay mentally balanced and remind yourself to love yourself and to not be so concerned all the time, and just find balance in terms of what you're eating and overdoing it, and finding healthy things that you can have instead. I love French fries, so I'll make my own French fries, right? That is so much healthier for me because I can make them even without oil, which is amazing. I can make them completely organic. I also love chocolate peanut butter cups, and luckily we have Justin's organic dark chocolate peanut butter cups. Now, they might not be the healthiest thing, but they're so much healthier than Reese's peanut butter cups, which I used to eat a ton of, right? So we have these little swaps that we can do, and I think that keeping that sort of thing around and eating less of it and more of the whole foods is ultimately the best way to feel your best and look your best. Okay, moving on. Again, if anybody else out there wants to ask a live question, go ahead. I'm going to switch over and see what I have in terms of submitted questions. I did actually get one today. Where did that one go? It's running a little bit slow. Let's see here. Let me switch over to my computer for a second. I received a new question this morning that I want to make sure that I address. Okay, so this person, I think, they would like their name kept private. The question is, I was a vegetarian for 1.5 years and just became vegan for about 5 months now. I've noticed both a ton of positive changes in both my health and my emotional well-being. For the past year, however, I've been slowly losing more hair than usual. My doctor checked my iron, thyroid, and B12 levels, and they all came up normal. Supplementation with vitamins and minerals, especially iron, calcium, zinc, and B12, has slowed it down a little bit, but I'm still losing a lot of my hair density. I have long curly hair that is a great source of pride to me, and I'm afraid that soon my scalp will be showing. Do you experience anything similar when you went vegan, and will it ever stop? So first of all, I always want to preface questions like this to let you know that I'm not a medical professional. So the best thing that you can do is to go see a medical professional with these specific health issues, which it sounds like this woman has done, which is wonderful. The question is it the right doctor? And I really emphasize this. I was actually this morning, part of the reason I've had such a upside down week in terms of my schedule. I was up really early to watch this incredible live presentation that Chris Carr did. And Chris Carr, for those of you who don't know, is an incredible wellness activist and author. She has a phenomenal website and online community and all of that. She survived cancer. So she was diagnosed with cancer, I think, 13 years ago. And one thing that she said today that was really fascinating was that she went to so many different doctors, and all of them kind of had different perspectives on things. And it was such a great reminder that we can't just take whatever one doctor says. Well, we could, of course, right? But my point being that if one doctor says one thing, it really helps to go get an opinion from somebody else. It sounds like this woman's doctor is helpful by checking the blood levels of iron, thyroid, B12, and all of that. But is this doctor really going to give the best advice here if you're coming to me at this point? Now, if it's more of a lifestyle question, first of all, to answer your question, I didn't experience any issues with my hair. In fact, my hair has probably got improved. I've been vegan for 11 years. It's hard to remember what it was like at the beginning, but people compliment me on my hair all the time. It's very full. It grows like crazy. It's super long right now, and it's got great color. I've had one gray hair ever, and it feels like it might have been a fluke. I don't know if the gray hair thing has anything to do with my vegan diet, but in general, my hair is wonderful. And I lose a few strands. Like if I pull through my hair, I always have a few strands. You can't see it, but a few strands of hair come out in the shower and when I brush my hair and all that. But no, in terms of getting any sort of bald spots or anything, I've never had a concern with my hair. However, that's just me. I also, in all my research, haven't come across anything that says that hair loss is a major side effect of being vegan. And I think that it can be so many different things. And that's why I think it's really important for you to have someone that you can consult with. It would really be ideal, and this goes out to anyone with any type of health question here, is being able to sit down with somebody and go through everything. Talk about your blood levels once they've been tested. Make sure that you're getting the right blood test, right? That's one thing I really learned from Jason Wrobel. In fact, if you go back to the first Q&A that we did, and I'll link to it down below, that was the entire topic of that Q&A, was about health and how he recently had his blood tested and was shocked by the results. Now, I haven't had that full blood panel done yet, and it's cost a little bit of money. It can cost anywhere from a few $100s to a little over $1,000. It can be pricey depending on your insurance and your doctor and this and that. But I've been saving up for this because I really want to get it done myself. The point being is that a couple years ago when I got my blood tested, I had kind of the same results of, oh, you're fine. But they didn't really go that depth in it, and we didn't even really talk about what was happening there. Now, for me, it wasn't that because I didn't have any major health concerns, but when it comes to health concerns, that's why I emphasize going to at least one doctor. Getting a few different opinions is ideal if you can afford it and depending on your insurance situation. And then getting that full blood panel and really talking about it. Finding a doctor that can evaluate not just your blood, but your lifestyle. Because things like hair loss can also be related to stress or not getting enough sleep, or who knows, something going on in your environment. There are so many different factors. And I think for some people, this can feel incredibly overwhelming. But if your health is a priority, it's really worth taking the time to kind of investigate. And I'll tell you from firsthand, I am investigating my health on a daily basis. There are definitely things that come up for me that I just can't really explain, but most of the time, I don't feel like that it's related to veganism for me specifically. For me, I've only experienced positive benefits from being vegan. I have definitely needed to modify what it means to be vegan, right? When I first went vegan, I was eating some foods that were not working well in my body. I was eating processed foods, a lot of refined foods. I was eating gluten and soy and corn and almonds, and those are the 4 things that I'm sensitive to and had no idea for years and years. So it took a lot of time for me to start to understand my body. And similar to the weight question earlier, I think it's just important for us to really not stress out too much about it, right? Because stress can cause the hair loss. To feel relaxed, to feel balanced, and to just take the time to listen to your body, get to know your body, and also to get the professional advice from a medical person you trust. Now, if for some reason you can't find a great doctor in your area, it's absolutely possible to consult with people online or on the phone. A lot of people do Skype calls, so you can have a video conference, form intakes. You can fill out forms and they can evaluate you that way. You'll still need to do some sort of a blood test, but you can actually go to a blood test center, have your blood test done, and the results will be sent to somebody. You don't need to actually see them in person. So there are a lot of different options, and I just invite you to keep exploring it, keep investigating it. And in the meantime, start doing your own investigations, right? Don't just rely on a medical professional, but really start to evaluate what's going on in your life. Are you stressed out? How are you eating? What are you eating? Are there chemicals in your home that you're being exposed to? What type of things are just happening around you, and what are the cause and effects of it? When you start to write that down, take note of it for at least a few days, ideally a few weeks to a month, you'll be amazed at how much you find out about your lifestyle. And lastly, one of my favorite resources for topics like this is the 7-day allergy makeover by Dr. Susan Bennett. That book is incredibly eye-opening and reminds us how many things we're exposed to and how it affects our health, not from a depressing standpoint, but from, again, that investigative standpoint of, wow, I had no idea that I needed to filter my air or filter my water, and maybe that's affecting something like hair loss, right? So starting to understand how all those different things in our lifestyle play out will really open your eyes and hopefully get to the bottom of it. Okay. So another live question we have here from Psycha, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, who asked, do I have any favorite vegan or vegetarian celebrities? So it depends what you mean by celebrities, right? if you mean a celebrity that just happens to be vegan, or do you mean a quote unquote person that's vegan, has made they become a celebrity through their veganism, right? So the first person that comes to mind is Chris Carr, who I just mentioned, and I have her book sitting right here. This is Chris. I have been paying attention to what Chris is doing for years and years. I got this book. When did this come out? In 2010, I think? 2011. It's one of my all-time favorite books, and she's written a few other books. She has documentary. She's an incredible speaker. I was blown away by what she said this morning. It was well worth being up at 6:30 in the morning for that. She really inspires me, and she has become a quote-unquote celebrity because of her activism through wellness and veganism and cancer, and has really shaped a lot of lives. So to me, that is like the ultimate celebrity there. But if you're referring more towards celebrities in terms of actors that happen to be vegan or vegetarian, I wouldn't say I have. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've been a fan of Joaquin Phoenix for a long time, and I love what he's done for projects like Earthlings, the documentary, and Unity. Speaking of Unity, there are some incredible people that are in that film, and I forget what the status is of that documentary, but I believe it's out. You'll have to double check, but the Unity by director Sean Monson is an incredible movie that they gathered, I think, like 50 different celebrities to do the voiceover for this documentary, and it's just mind-blowing. And not all of them are vegan, but they did bring in some of the prominent vegan figures out there. I'm kind of drawing a blank. I mean, for me, I focus more on who inspires me and who I can learn from and just get charged by. I definitely love entertainment. I love TV shows and movies and all of that, but I see those as purely entertainment, not someone to really look up to in most cases. But someone like Chris Carr is somebody that I really admire and just adore learning from her. So if any of you are new to Chris Carr, I really, really recommend that. I hope that answers your question. Okay, let's take a look. What else do we have here? Had some others gathering. And I apologize if anybody's watching the first time today. I'm, as I mentioned, not quite as organized as usual. I've been working on my book and creating videos, and I'm working on another big project for YouTube, and it's amazing. I'm trying to do a little bit too much at once. And make sure, because I love checking in with you, and really I would love to make them more about the live questions. I just noticed that some people are not quite as vocal as others, so I want to encourage you. You can ask me anything you want. If I don't have the answer now, I will find an answer later so that you can feel as educated as possible. Another huge thing for me with these Q&As is I've noticed that a lot of people are just looking for some sort of support online or friend or something. And that's a huge aim of Eco Vegan Gal, is to make it feel like a welcoming place where you don't feel like the weird vegan and you don't know any other vegans, but you know me, and you can meet other people through the Eco Vegan Gal community and all of that. It's really a huge goal of mine to just make you feel confident and supported and everything there. So I feel like these Q&As are not necessarily just to answer questions, but to give you a reference point for what's going on in your day-to-day life, and know that it doesn't have to be stressful. It can be easy, it can be fun, it can be relaxing. So that's another reason that I do these. Well, speaking of which, Alexander asked, describe a day in the life of Eco Vegan Gal. You know, I wish I could answer that easily, but every single day is very, very different for me. I can give you a tip, I guess, kind of some sort of format for my life. I am a night owl. So I work very late hours, very, very late. And I usually wake up late in the morning or afternoon even. I love that. I designed my life to really work for what I thrive in. I happen to be a person that thrives at night and doesn't thrive in the morning. So a huge objective of mine was to be able to have whatever schedule I wanted. And I'm very grateful to have been able to achieve that. So I try not to schedule out my days too much. And oftentimes I'll schedule things at night. Like tonight I'm going to an event. I usually go to a few events a week. So a typical day would be just waking up whenever I feel like it, working as late as I feel like it at night, and that usually will influence what time I wake up in the morning. Sometimes I'll have meetings in the morning or afternoon that I can't push back later, and I'll have to kind of adjust and change around my schedule for that. But typically I just wake up and just get on the computer and start working away on whatever project I need to do. I work mostly from home. When I say mostly, I mean basically entirely, unless I'm traveling or something. But yeah, I report to myself completely, and I just get on the computer and do whatever needs to be done that day. And that's where things start to fluctuate. So right now I'm finishing up my book and working on the YouTube project and a bunch of other smaller projects that come up a lot. So I open up my email, and that really direct in every day, because every day I get an email that influences what I need to do that day. And it's really fascinating when you work for yourself and you're just like, wow, I have no idea what's going to happen from day to day. So that's pretty much it. I just wake up and do my work and eat, and sometimes go to events. And it sounds very simple, but my days tend to be very long and busy and just all over the place. But one of these days, I would like to do some sort of like a video on that. I've seen some other YouTubers create really cool videos of what their day-to-day lives are, and I always find them so fascinating. So I'll probably do that, talk about the things that I like to eat, and more about bring you along with me on my journey from day to day. So Shirley asked a similar question: what's my go-to breakfast? Well, if you're looking for advice, I could definitely frame that for you. But in terms of myself, I don't really eat breakfast. Similar to what I was just saying, in terms of my interesting schedule, I just kind of let my body dictate what I want to do. And I really want to make a point to say that that's one of the best things I've ever given myself. How do I phrase this? I guess that would be it. I gave myself an amazing gift years ago when I decided to stop working full time and find a way to work for myself, because I'm the type of person that really just wants to be able to do whatever I feel like. Not from an irresponsible perspective, but I'm not the type of person that wants to eat breakfast in the morning. So I don't eat breakfast. I just eat when my body says it wants to eat. And I try to keep healthy food around so that when I do want to eat, it's there for me. And I try not to eat out of impulse. So yeah, I wake up whenever I feel like, and I eat whenever I feel like. And usually I focus more on a really big dinner and some sort of a small lunch and some snacks in between. That seems to work really well. But if you'd like some advice on breakfast, I certainly could give other people who are more breakfast eaters advice. So just follow up with me, Shirley, if you would like to know. I'll say this lastly, that I like breakfast items. I just might not have them for breakfast. So, I mean, pancakes, I adore. I'll make really great gluten-free pancakes and add in things like banana. I love to get creative with, just the cool thing about pancakes, for example, Bob's Red Mill makes a gluten-free mix, and you literally can just whip bananas in non-dairy milk and put it into the mix, and that's it. And the bananas act as a sweetener, and they act as a binder similar to an egg, and it makes a super healthy pancake. Also, French toast can be made really healthy. I have a video on this if you're curious about healthy French toast recipes, and it's amazing. You really just need whatever type of whole grain bread, and you can whip it up with some non-dairy milk and banana and some cinnamon and vanilla and make a delicious, healthy French toast. And lastly, my favorite savory breakfast, when I do eat breakfast, or I put it in quotes, right? My breakfast might be at like 2 p.m. or something. That's when I decide to eat first. So I love to make something with garbanzo bean flour, and there are a lot of different names for this. I was introduced to this by Say Word when she was on my Q&A weeks ago. Some people call this pudla, some people call it farinata or soka or saka. So many different names for it in various cultures and parts of the world. And it's really just taking garbanzo bean flour and adding in a little bit of baking soda, a little bit of lemon, and I feel like I'm in some water, and you mix it up like a little pancake mix, and then you add in spices. I love to add in curry spices and then chopped up vegetables. My favorite all-time combination was that plus broccoli and red bell pepper, and it tasted exactly like an omelet. Once all that is mixed up together, you put it in a frying pan, and you don't even need oil. You could use a cast iron or an eco-friendly nonstick pan, and you pour it in there and flip it just like a pancake, and it has this incredible savory, kind of crispy but soft consistency, very similar to an omelet. And you can put on like some hot sauce, or I put on like a non-dairy cheese sometime, and it's just like fantastic. So, okay, I guess I do have I don't have a go-to breakfast, but that's probably my favorite breakfast to make for myself. You reminded me of something that I hadn't thought of off the top of my head. So Nicole asked, how do you handle going out to eat or social gatherings with food? So this is a very common question, Nicole, and I feel like I answered it at least once in the Q&A. I love, by the way, that people are asked, suddenly all these questions are coming in, and this is turning into a truly live Q&A. This is great. Keep your questions coming. Seriously, everybody watching, whatever you want to ask, please just type it in. Let's keep it going. So yeah, I would love to know more specifically what you mean, Nicole, by handle going out to eat and what you're looking for specifically there. For me personally, it's a little bit different because I've been vegan for so long and this is my career. So it's easier for me because I'm always thinking about things, right? I think when people ask this question, they're really asking because maybe they're new to veganism and they don't have a lot of vegan people around them. So it's really going to differ from situation to situation. For me personally, it's easy because over the past 11 years, not only have I made veganism a huge part of my career, but I've surrounded myself with amazing vegan people, and I chose to live in a city that has lots of great vegan food, and I've learned how to make great vegan food. And so I personally have had so much experience that social gatherings are super easy. But I will say that it's a little bit different when I'm not at my home base in Los Angeles. So for example, I was just home in Massachusetts, and it's a different situation. It's usually easy at my parents' home. They're used to me being vegan, and I know what vegan stores to go to, and I can always fend for myself there if I prepare properly. But one great example is when I went to a non-vegan wedding about a month ago, and that's a really good example of a social gathering with food. I made a big point to eat a huge meal before I went and to bring a snack with me. I actually brought a few food bars in my purse. And I also when we sat down to eat, I asked for a vegetarian option. So I actually made a whole video about this. If you go to about a month ago on my channel, there's a video about this, and it's centered a little bit around budgets, of course, because it's part of my budget series, but it still answers a lot of that question. There are a few different videos. One is called Coexisting with People Who Eat Differently, and the other one was, I forget what I titled it, but something about events or weddings or something, and I give a lot of different advice in there. In general, though, I just say to be prepared. It really helps to eat beforehand, and depending on the social situation, you can bring your own food or you can request them to have vegan food for you. And if you're going to a place that has absolutely no options, that's again, the preparation comes in, looking at the menu ahead of time. If you know you're not going to be able to eat anything there, or if you know the party you're going to go to, they refuse to have vegan options, and for some reason you can't bring any of your own food there, just eat a huge meal before and or afterwards. And if you're wondering more about talking about your veganism, let me know and I can elaborate. So the next question comes from Karina. Do you personally recommend going gluten and soy free? I've always had a very sensitive stomach and has recently been told that I have gastritis and wonder whether removing these things from my diet would help. So Karina, I don't know if you're new to the Q&A I'm sorry, you joined after I spoke about this a little bit. Number one, I really recommend consulting with at least one doctor and or a nutritionist or dietitian, because they're really going to help get to the bottom of it for you personally. For me, do I recommend going gluten or soy free? I don't like to use the word recommend because it's a case-by-case basis. Now, for gluten, a lot of information has come out over the years since I went gluten-free. In specifically, recently there was some news that came out that, disproving gluten sensitivity and all that. I'm still learning about this because it's a bit of a complex subject. But in essence, it's believed that there's not much benefit to eating gluten-free unless you are celiac or have a true sensitivity, right? But for me personally, I've never been tested for gluten sensitivity, but I'm definitely sensitive to it. You can't see it now, but I had some gluten yesterday. I like to experiment with it every once in a while, and I break out on my neck. I get these splotches here from eating gluten, and I get nasal reactions to it, and I get bloating. So it's very clear to me that it just doesn't work well for me. I don't think I have celiac. I've never been tested for it. And as far as I know, I don't have any of the symptoms, but I see a direct correlation. So for you, and the same goes for soy, right? Just experimenting and seeing, how does your body react to it? Do you feel better not eating gluten? If so, then it doesn't matter what other people say. If you feel better, that's what really matters, right? Same with soy. I personally can have very little soy. I do best with soy that's fermented. So example would be natto or tempeh, certain types of organic, high quality sprouted tofu I can do. But any sort of processed soy, I really don't react well to. And I really don't recommend that people eat processed soy, especially if it's not organic, because I believe it's 90% of the soy in our country and in the United States is genetically modified. A large part of it is processed. But if you're eating the organic, unprocessed, fermented soy, it's a lot easier for your body and has some health benefits to it. But if your digestive system isn't handling soy well, then of course, why would you eat it? For me, it gives me bloating and gas and all sorts of uncomfortable digestive distress and all that. So I have soy very infrequently, and it's a treat, and I kind of have to know that my body's not going to feel that good. So for you, I would really, really recommend that you talk to a knowledgeable doctor that understands health and nutrition. Not all doctors have much knowledge around this. A lot of doctors are trained more in prescribing medicine or doing surgeries or things like giving shots and this and that. But if you find a doctor that's more holistic or naturally minded, who has a nutritional background, that is the type of person I would really recommend that you see to figure out what's best for you and your diet. Okay, so Casey asked, I'm aware of the antifungal properties of tea tree oil, but was wondering what other uses besides in shampoo for tea tree oil. It's an acquired taste regarding the scent, but it doesn't bother me too much and want to incorporate more in my routine. Great question. My favorite use of tea tree oil actually is for any sort of itchiness. Speaking of food sensitivities here, I have a variety of food sensitivities, and I get reactions in my scalp. So mainly corn. I get a really itchy scalp, and I'll actually get like breakouts on my scalp when I eat corn. And sometimes I get that from gluten, soy, or almonds. That's like it's very fascinating. That's actually how I knew that I had sensitivities. I started to notice a correlation. I would have these scalp issues for years and years. And it took me so long to realize that they're coming from food sensitivities. So as I mentioned, Casey, every once in a while, I will eat certain foods, even though I know I'm sensitive to them because I'm not allergic, right? So I'll have that scalp issue, and you know what is the best solution to that is tea tree oil. So I take just a little bit of tea tree oil and dilute it in water, and I have a little spray bottle in my medicine cabinet. My medicine cabinet's more just a cabinet, but that's like one of the only things in there. And I spray that right on my scalp. It takes the itchiness away, and this can work with a lot of things. Tea tree oil is also in my favorite shampoo, which is the Avalon Organics anti-dandruff line. I don't really suffer with dandruff, but because I have scalp issues from certain foods sometimes, that is really great for my scalp. and that's just already in the product. Plus, I just took a shower and did my hair, and I think that product works really well. Tea tree oil can also be used on yoga mats, so I'll use it there. I will really dilute it, and this depends on the type of yoga mat that you use, but you can make your own yoga mat solution and spray it on there. You just want to make sure that you're not using it on certain yoga mats that might start to naturally degrade from that, because tea tree oil can be a little harsh. You could use tea tree oil on some companion animals like dogs and cats, but you have to check because it can be a little bit toxic, and it depends on how much amount that you use, so be careful with that. There's also companies that put tea tree oil in their toothpaste. There's Desert Essence, and they use tea tree oil and lots of different things, like you mentioned, the shampoos and the toothpaste and various body products. There's I can't remember if it's Desert Essence or another company, but they make soaps. They make this all sorts of things. You can use it, medicinally for kind of a aromatherapy, or to put on your hands diluted to get rid of bacteria. There's so many great uses for tea tree oil. I'm so glad that you asked. The best resource is the internet for things like that. So type in tea tree oil with the word uses or something. In fact, I'll do this right now while I'm waiting for more questions to come in. So let's see, tea tree oil uses. And I bet we're going to find, here we go, 25 uses for tea tree oil. And there's got to be a ton of lists of this. This is actually a cool website too. So let's see what they say. So heals and soothes sunburns, heals skin infections, relieves itchiness, all-purpose cleaner. You can dilute it with water and use it as an all-purpose cleaner. It's great for acne. I should have mentioned that too. Helps to prevent lice naturally. You can put it in just a few drops in your pet's or your companion animal's beds to keep fleas away. You can get rid of toenail fungus, skin tags, bad breath. So again, I mentioned it's in some toothpaste. You could actually just dilute tea tree oil in water and use it as a mouth rinse. That's a great idea. You can make your own homemade toothpaste. You can use it to treat warts, soothe insect bites, treat psoriasis, relieve asthma. I mean, there's so many different uses. So I would really recommend looking that up and starting to use tea tree oil. And the cool thing is, a little bit goes a long way. You can buy a bottle about this size of high quality tea tree oil, and it tends to be over $10. I forget exactly. You want to get the good stuff, right? But that bottle will last you at least a year, maybe multiple years, depending on how frequently you're using it. I always have tea tree oil around, and I love it. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so we have one more live question here that came from Diane. When you first went vegan, did you find it hard to stick with it? No. No, I didn't. I fell in love with the lifestyle, but I remember that it took me a little while to go fully vegan. I went vegetarian overnight. I was just done with eating meat once I started to learn about it. Done. Dairy was harder though, and I think that's because 11 years ago, things were very, very different when it came to veganism. I mean, we didn't have Miyoko's Creamery, even Daiya cheese, and we barely had anything back then. I mean, there was like maybe 3 different cheeses to choose from. Now we have 30 plus different cheeses. In terms of milk, we had a good, I suppose there were probably a lot of milks out there. I drank soy milk in the beginning. And yeah, I think that, cheese is really hard. That's the hardest thing for a lot of people. Like butter, there was earth balance back then, and also all these different milks around. So milk and butter were simple to swap out, but cheese is hard for a lot of people. And I think it's different now. If I were going vegan right now, I wouldn't have much of an excuse, right? Once you try something like Miyoko's Creamery, it's like, okay, I can do this. I can make incredible meals. I remember I didn't have pizza forever. I was devastated. I would have just pizza without cheese on it. And I remember thinking, I guess I'm just never going to have pizza again. And restaurants back then, you were so lucky if you could find a place that served vegan breakfast. Maybe that's why I don't like breakfast that much, because I just got used to not eating it. I mean, you were very lucky if you could find a tofu scramble, but man, I would die for vegan pancakes and French toast, and I would make them myself. Let's see what else. Yeah, pizza, I just remember thinking, I guess it's over. And experimenting with the cheeses that were around back then, it was miserable. But that's the thing, I guess, to answer your question, Diane, is despite all of those hardships, I stuck through it. I committed to it. And no, I mean, it was easy to stick with, but there were a lot of challenges within there, but that didn't stop me because I was so committed to the lifestyle. So to answer that question again, taking it full circle, if I were vegan now, I mean, it's like there are no excuses. You want any type of taste or texture, it's out there. It is any vegan product you could possibly imagine is either a trip to Whole Foods away or an online order away or a restaurant away. I mean, we just have so much at our fingertips, and I just don't think it's challenging at all. But I would love to hear why you're asking that question. If perhaps you're finding it challenging to stick with, perhaps there are just a few little things that you need to tweak or things that you need to learn. And that's exactly what these Q&As are all about, to make it easy for you. So Eric asked, are there any egg alternatives for vegans? Absolutely, Eric. I don't know if you just joined, but I was talking about pancakes a little bit ago, and bananas are a phenomenal egg alternative, and it always depends on what you're making. So are you baking something, or are you just wanting to eat an egg, or are you cooking something, and what is the purpose of the egg in the recipe? That'll change how it's used. So some top egg alternatives naturally would be banana, applesauce, flax seeds. You can grind up flax seeds and mix them with water, or chia seeds. Those, I think, are the top 4. I also just used to use baking soda and baking powder in my pancake recipes, and those worked wonderfully. Plus, there's a lot of store-bought baking alternatives. There's Energy Egg, which has been around for years and years. And now we have, what's it called now? Is it called Beyond Eggs? Hampton Creek. I think they still make that. I can't remember. That was one of those products that I have no idea what happened with that. But we also have the Veg. And also Neat just came out. The company Neat, who makes a meat alternative, but their name is Neat, N-E-A-T. They now just launched a egg alternative made from, I think, garbanzo beans and chickpeas, which is pretty cool. So yes, it always depends on that. That one's cool because it's meant to work with their meat alternatives. And so they sell these dry meat alternatives you can mix in their egg replacer or use any of the egg replacers I just mentioned. And that makes delicious tacos and meatballs and all sorts of things. So that's great for cooking. If you want to just eat an egg, I mentioned also earlier the farinata recipe, which again has lots of different names, but it just consists of using garbanzo bean flour with some water and a few other ingredients, and you can make an omelet out of that. I served it to my parents and my sister, and all 3 of them said, this tastes exactly like an omelet. They were amazed, and it's not meant to be an omelet, but it just has that taste and texture. Lastly, tofu is fantastic for an egg alternative if you want more like a scramble experience. The cool thing about tofu is you can get soy tofu or you can get hemp tofu. This company called Living Harvest now makes a soy-free tofu out of hemp, and it's almost exactly the same texture, which is really cool. I'm sure I'm missing something here. Maybe people can chime in the comment section below, but there are tons of egg alternatives to answer your question, Eric. All right, I'm going to take one more question, and if somebody wants to slip in one more live, I will do that, but we're already about an hour into this today. So Jessica asked, are there any funny stories you have related to organic, vegetarian, vegan, eco, gluten-free, etc. foods? So specifically, Jessica, I'm not entirely sure what you're asking here, but funny stories in terms of like foods that something like that went wrong or some food that didn't taste very good. I would love to hear more about what you're asking in particular. Let me see here. I mean, I've definitely had my fair share of like really crazy experiences with food and it not tasting good or something going wrong. I'm gonna have to think about that one. But if you could get more specific about what you're asking, Jessica, I'd love to share funny stories. Funny things happen all the time. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for the more elaboration, Jessica, Nicole asked, "Would you ever date a non-vegan? I'm 16 and have been vegan for 3 years, but I don't know if I ever could." So absolutely, I have dated plenty of non-vegans. I've actually only dated 2 vegans that I can think of. Now, here's the interesting thing. 2 of my long-term boyfriends, who I'm no longer with, decided to go vegetarian, and one of them is mainly vegan because of me. And that actually, one of them didn't go vegetarian until years after we had broken up. He decided to do it for his health. Suddenly got very, very blue. Let me turn on some warm light here. And the other person that I was dating went mainly vegan when we were together. So that, I should preface that by saying that I decided to date them because they had great personalities and I really liked them, and it wasn't that important. In fact, the person that eventually went vegetarian, he and I were very serious for a few years and we lived together. And we actually have nowadays I wouldn't do that again. So if I were to live with another boyfriend or eventual long-term partner, I feel like continuously do not want to have meat and dairy in my home. In terms of eating out, that can be a little bit tricky. It is uncomfortable for me, but this has changed over the years. So when I first went vegan, that's when I was dating a lot of non-vegans, and I didn't really mind for whatever reason that they weren't vegan. I think I was more timid at the time, so it didn't bother me so much that they were eating meat and dairy in front of me. But these days, it's definitely a little bit uncomfortable. I have a hard time with it, or seafood. Being around my family who eats that way, it is challenging, and not from like a judgmental perspective, but just that it makes me sad. And sad that there's so many great options out there. I find it interesting that people still choose to eat them. So moving forward in terms of relationships, it is very important to me that my household is completely vegan. And I would prefer to be with somebody who is at least willing to be open-minded and eat mainly vegan around me. I've always liked the concept of not making it a requirement to date a vegan or trying to force somebody or change them, but simply ask them, explain to them how you feel about it and what your preferences are before you go into the relationship. So just tell them, hey, I'm vegan. You don't need to be. It's okay with me that you're not. But if we're together, it'd be great if you ate vegan with me. And I know a lot of people find this in their relationship. It really helps to make vegan food, delicious vegan food, and not force it upon them. But again, when you make meals for you, you might not want to make meat and dairy. I'm personally not that comfortable with. This is a kind of a challenging question to answer. But Nicole, not challenging in terms of, it's challenging in that it differs from situation and person to person. And I did a Q&A a little while back with Juliana Hever. We talked about this. So if you look up that video or type in like the word relationship, you'll probably come across more information. And again, you can skip forward to the different sections in the description box. I will close out by saying there's a great book called, she called that book. It's by Ellen Jaffe Jones, and she wrote a whole book about coexisting with people that eat differently. And it has some great tips in it, plus a lot of recipes in it that you can make for non-vegans. And the tips include all the different scenarios. So some people only want to date vegans. Nothing wrong with that, right? Of course, it's your preference. Some people want to date non-vegans, but they have a completely vegan household, or like I used to do, they have meat and dairy and vegan. Some people separate their food in those situations. Some people don't mind them being next to each other. Some people prefer that their partners only eat vegan with them, but can eat vegan or non-vegan food when they're not with them. Some people don't mind. There's all these different combinations and scenarios. So I would say for you, especially being at 16, one of the best things that you can do is just be really confident about where you stand and try not to judge other people for their choices. Look at people for who they are, and if you really like being around them and they seem to be compassionate and open and respectful of you, then perhaps it can work. But the last thing I'd say that, at 16, it's just so different. Some people are very, for lack of a better word, evolved in terms of their consciousness and awareness and just kind of know what's going on in the world. But a lot of people at that age or even at any age are just not in the same place as you. So one of the best things you can do is to get very clear on who you are and what you want, right? Because at 16, I remember, you get swayed by people's different opinions and all that. Even as an older age, we always kind of are afraid, not always, but a lot of people are afraid that they're not making the right decisions or doing the right things, but it ultimately comes down to what we really want and what we believe in. So get confident and clear. And then when you're meeting new people, just find out if they feel like they can think along the same lines as you, right? They might not need to think exactly the same way that you do, but if you can agree on a lot of things and you join each other's companies and you can be respectful of one another, then I think those relationships can work. The last thing I think is important to say is some vegans kind of want to force people to be vegan because they are, or they only want to date non-vegans. But to me, that limits you so much. And dating a non-vegan can give you an opportunity to really open somebody's eyes and introduce them to new things if they're willing to look into it. So that's why I think dating non-vegans can be beneficial, and it gives you more options too. So Nicole also asked, what is my favorite vegan makeup line? I would say right now it's Pacifica, but there are a lot of makeup. I wear a variety. Right now I'm wearing, my daily routine is a foundation by Raw Cuticles. And then I use Imani's bronzer. I Pacifica's bronzer, and put a little bit of Pacifica's blush on. I am wearing eyeliner, I think, by Pacifica, and eyeshadow by Imani. And I'll put on later on some mascara from Glam Natural and some lipstick from either Imani or Pacifica. So I switch it up. I actually am doing a video beauty series with vegan cuts. So those, I'll be announcing those when those come out. There's a couple out right now. There's one on nail polish and the other one is on finishing powder, I think. So you can check that out on the Vegan Cuts YouTube page. But yeah, if I had to pick one makeup line, it'd probably be Pacifica because they have so much of different options and great colors and really good ingredients. Okay, so Jessica came back around to clarify her question, and this will be the last part of the Q&A today. So she wants to know, basically talking to someone and they make jokes about veganism and you embarrass them and you laugh about it or something of the sort, humorous stories in general related to the eco-vegan lifestyle. So it sounds like you want to know more about conversations having with other people in regards to veganism. Trying to think here. I guess nothing really stands out, but I think it's probably because I tend to let go of that stuff. I guess nothing has been that funny, but I feel like funny can mean so many different things, right? Sometimes things seem funny to us because they're actually a little bit hurtful, and somebody will say something really cruel and we'll have something snarky to say back to them or whatever, and we tend to laugh it off because it's easier to laugh than be upset about it. And those happen to me all the time, especially on YouTube. I mean, people say the craziest things on YouTube. For me, I guess that's why I might not remember any of it, because I just kind of let it go and it doesn't stay in my mind that much. I wish I could think of funny stories though, like truly funny, not like funny because they were hurtful, but funny because they were actually funny. Nothing is coming to mind though, and I'm always laughing about something, and oh, I don't know. I just don't have anything to say, Jessica. I wish I did, but if I do think of something, I will certainly mention it in a Q&A or on social media or something and give you a shout out for asking. But I would love to hear anybody else. If anybody else wants to chime in with funny stories that you want to share, I would absolutely love to hear what you have to say. All right, well, I'm going to wrap that up today. We are verging on an hour and a half, and my aim is always try to keep these closer to an hour. Next week, I believe I will have Sayward back on, and then after that, I will be in the Caribbean on the vegan cruise with Miyoko from Miyoko's Creamery and Jason Wrobel and the Vegan Zombie and Isa Chandra Moskowitz and the Vegan Black Metal Chef. So I hope that the internet connection is good enough there. I've never been on a cruise, so I don't know, but I'm hoping that it is because it'd be really cool to do a Q&A with them or at least one of them. But if not, then I'll just have to record some videos and put them up for you guys and hopefully capture some good experiences. And I'll put out a request for questions to ask them or content to do with them, because I definitely got to take advantage of 7 days with them and all the other vegans. I'm really, really looking forward to it. So I hope that you will tune in again, and next week it'll be more organized. I'll have Sayward on to tackle various questions about vegan living and healthy living and all of that. So I would love to have you tune in then. And otherwise, in the meantime, you can check out ecovegangal.com, and I would love to see you on social media because that's where the conversation is always going, and you can meet other amazing people. Thank you all for watching today, and despite the little bit of a different, looser format, but it was actually really nice to just read questions and answer them off the top of my head. That's probably the part of the Q&As I enjoy the most, and it's really amazing to me when people chime in and tune in just to listen to that. And I just want to let anyone out there know that you're not alone and you're supported, and I'm here to help you as much as I possibly can. And I love hearing your questions and your feedback about how I can further support you. And I can't wait to get this ebook out to you as soon as possible, as well as some other things that I'm working on to help veganism and healthy living and eco-friendly living easier and easier for you. And with that said, I'm signing off. I'm going to head out to a few different parties with some vegan friends right now in Los Angeles and enjoy the rest of my Saturday. And I hope all of you do as well if you're watching live, and for anyone else watching the recording, enjoy whatever day it is. Okay, see you next time. Bye.